Okay, so everybody knows what this is. This is the Mickey pumpkin wreath, the ones that they have at the Magic Kingdom on Main Street for Halloween. It's beautiful, it's pretty, right? It's awesome. It's great that they're finally selling them to the public. You can take one home. I brought it home and I was very confused because it doesn't light up. Everybody's wondering, why does it not light up? Well, guess what? With a little bit of elbow grease, a couple of parts for a couple of dollars from Amazon, you can take one of these Mickey wreaths that does not light up and turn it into an amazing glowing pumpkin. We're going to show you how to do it right now. Okay, so to turn your Mickey pumpkin wreath into a lighted Mickey pumpkin wreath, you are going to need to order a couple of things. So it's super easy, and I'm going to put the links in the description. The first thing you're going to need is this special light. Now, this light has 3 little nodes on it, and it plugs in to a 9-volt battery. It has a little controller here, and that's what's going to control the intensity of the light and the flicker. But this whole unit comes off Amazon, just like this. Then you're going to need a 9-volt battery, pretty simple to get. You're going to need a couple of pieces of heat shrink tubing. You can get this off Amazon, or you can get this at your local hardware store. Honestly, instead of this, you could just use some electrical tape. I'm going to use heat shrink tubing just because that's how I want to do it. I went fancy and got a photocell to be able to use the ambient light outdoors to turn the pumpkin on and off. I'm not actually going to show you how to do that in this video, but I wanted to let you know that it is something you can do if you want, so that when it gets dark outside, your pumpkin turns on automatically. I'm not going to use it, but I will put the link in the description. So the other thing I have is I have a weatherproof holder for the 9-volt battery. So as you can see, the 9 volts just going to slip right inside here, and that's a weatherproofing. Now, if you wanted to make it really simple on yourself, you wouldn't need to use this, and really you could just plug it in right here. But I'm going to make mine nice. I'm going to make sure that it lasts a few years. So we're going to use this little weatherproof case for the battery. This is also on the Amazon links. You will need some tools. I have some scissors. I have some wire strippers. A couple of little kind of tiny screwdrivers here. A drill bit. I have a soldering iron that I'll probably use later after the video to make sure that the little connections are good. But really, that's all you need. So first thing first, flip it over. And I do recommend, of course, I don't have anything soft right now. What you're going to want to do is put something soft under it. You don't want to scratch it. So while you're taking the screws out, you want to make sure you're not going to be scratching it. So you may notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 5 little screws on the back here. So I kind of feel, guys, like this was originally supposed to have a light in it, and they maybe just didn't have time to make that happen. So if you look at the screws, they're weird little like triangle screws. Oh, you know what? That's not going to be small enough. I need a smaller screwdriver. Let me get a smaller screwdriver. I got one right here. So the bits are actually triangle bits, which I think is their kind of way to try and make it a security thing so you can't take it off. It's easy to overcome. I'm just using a very tiny little screwdriver, and I'm going to put it right inside there. That one's too small. Let me get one that's a little bit bigger. There we go. This one's the winner. And it's going to fit right inside. And you might have to finagle it a little bit, but those little screws come out. So there's 5 of them. Just make sure you don't lose them, because you are going to have to put those back in. Woo! Yep, there's one hiding right there. And you do have to finagle it just a little bit, because like I said, the bit, it's going to be hard to show you because it's so small, but the bit end is actually a triangle. It's not made for this type of screwdriver. So we're just kind of, this is called a MacGyver. We're just kind of MacGyvering this a little bit. And one of these screws is a little tough to take out because it's close to the wreath, but okay, we got them. So once you get all those screws, look at this. The bottom just pops out. So we're going to take this, we're going to set this aside for just a second. Somewhere safe, we don't want to damage it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to put a tiny little hole. I'm going to use a drill to put a tiny little hole in here so that we can run our wires. Now, if you really don't want to put a hole in there, you wouldn't have to. You could probably squeeze the wires out through the side. I want to make sure this lasts for a long time, so I'm going to put a hole in there, and I might actually go back and maybe find some caulk to go in there too, but be very gentle here. Yep, it's really easy. It's plastic, so it goes through super soft like butter. Just like that. And I'm gonna turn this guy over, and I'm gonna come through on the other side. Be very careful, this is a drill. I'm gonna come through on this side, just really quickly, just to clean that up. There we go. Look at that. Now we've got a nice little clean hole there that we can put our cable through. I might clean that up just a little bit with maybe some sandpaper, but you can probably just pick those burrs off, and look at that. Perfect little hole right there. Okay, now that we have the hole drilled in the bottom piece of the wreath, we're going to take our 9-volt battery holder, and I'm going to take the 2 wires. I'm going to feed them through the hole. If you can see this here, the hole that I drilled, this is the outside, so I'm going to feed that through into the inside. Now, if you do happen to have a hot glue gun, that's where, and I didn't mention that as something you might want, but if you do have a hot glue gun laying around the house, put some hot glue right there, and then use that to stick the 9-volt battery case right to the outside. We're going to hold that there for just a second and let it dry. Now you've got a really nice base where you can put the battery inside, and it has an on-off switch, so you're not going to have to take the back of the wreath on and off to change the battery and to turn it on and off. We pulled our 2 wires through for our 9-volt battery holder. Now what we're going to do is we are going to actually mount the 3 little lights on the inside. So the light kit we bought is really kind of cool because the little lights actually come off. So what I want to do is I'm going to use the hot glue gun again. I'm going to put 1 light aiming kind of towards this ear. I'm going to put 1 light kind of just illuminating the inside of the Mickey head, and then another one going that way towards that ear, so that we have 3 of them that are lighting up the whole pumpkin kind of uniformly. So I have my hot glue gun again. I'm going to put a little bit of glue here, right where I want my first one. Okay. And then I'm just going to place it right there. Okay. I have these little glue strings here. I want my second one pointing towards this ear here. So I'm going to put glue. I'm going to line it up and just place it right in there. There we go. All right, and like I said, I want the third one just kind of right in the center, right about here. So we'll put that one right there. I think we have enough glue. And we're just going to place it right there. Perfect. So now I have all 3 of my little flickering orange lights in place, and I'm going to let that dry. Okay, now we have to do some things with electricity. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this part of the plug for the lights for the 9-volt, and I'm going to cut it off. Now I'm going to cut that off because I'm actually going to rewire it to our 9-volt battery case. So let me grab a scissors, and I'm just literally going to cut it off, just like that. Then I'm going to grab my wire strippers, and hopefully they will take off just enough. There we go. That's pretty good. I'm going to take off a little bit on that side. There we go. So I've stripped both sides of the wires. Now, I would say it's probably a good idea to solder these in place, but if you're not a good hand with the soldering iron, you know what you're going to want to do is just take the black with the black, give them a twist, make sure that they are nice and tight. Take the red to the red. Now you want to make sure you do black to black, red to red. That's very, very important here. Let me make sure these are twisted up tightly. All right, perfect. So now this is where your electrical tape or your little pieces of heat shrink come in handy. I'm going to use heat shrink. I'm going to put a little bit of heat shrink over this one. I'm going to put a little bit of heat shrink over this one. Okay, so we got heat shrink on both. Now I'm going to grab my heat gun, which I have right here. Got my heat gun. So if you don't have a heat gun, you can also use a lighter, which is kind of nice. That will heat it pretty evenly too. That heat shrink is great stuff, guys. I use this stuff at work all the time. It's fantastic. All right, I'm going to heat shrink this guy. It fell off. All right, we'll make sure that one tightens in. Now we're not going to have any shorts. So the wire's all covered up. So like I said, you can do the exact same thing with electrical tape. I'm going to take a little zip tie, and I'm going to zip tie this together here, just as an extra safety precaution so it doesn't get ripped apart. There we go. Cut it off. Perfect. All right, so in that time, our glue has had some time to dry here. So I'm going to take our 3 little connectors, plug them right in. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so they are all plugged in and ready to go. So at this point, why don't we go ahead and test it out? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 9-volt battery in and make sure that it works before we put all the screws back in. So let's flip it over. Make sure we got the 9-volt battery facing the right way. Up. And I can already tell you it is working and the little lights are flickering. There you go. Okay, so at this point we can tidy everything up. I am going to take another couple of zip ties and make this look nice and neat. Keep in mind that the controller for this is on the inside, so you're going to want to make sure you set it up the way you want it, before you put everything away inside the Mickey head here. And I'm going to use one more zip tie because I love zip ties. So I'm going to use one more zip tie here, and I'm going to cinch this all up. There we go. All cinched up, nice and neat. Then at this point, I can cut this guy off too. At this point, we can put the Mickey head back on. So I've got that over here so that it's not getting damaged. So make sure we pull all the leaves away so it fits in there nice. Okay. It's a little hard to, there we go. Okay. We got it all arranged nicely. So now we get our little screws that we took out before. And it may be a little tricky to get those screws back in because they are not actual flathead screws. So it may take a little extra time and effort to do that. Like this one's not going in super nice, but that's okay. We'll put this guy in here. So there are 5 screws. Guys, I'm not going to put all 5 in right now, just so I can show you that this is working. I'm just going to put this one and one more, just to make sure it's all tight inside there. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to put my 9-volt battery in, which is right here. I'm going to make sure it's in nice and tight, like this. I'm going to slide the cap over the top here, the waterproof cap. There's actually, it comes with a little safety screw as well that you can put on there. But look at this. Let's turn the light off. Voila! You have your glowing Mickey pumpkin.